Hi, with this video I would like to give you the most important advice for pool leaks and share my experience for servicing more than 600 swimming pools. I promise you will learn how to verify the leakage in your pool, how to properly dye test, what are the most common places for leaks in an above ground, in-ground, vinyl liner, concrete, gunite and fiberglass swimming pool. Also, I will give you essential tips to prevent leaks in your pool, understanding how the pool equipment operates, to detect leaks, to perform static pressure to identify the leaking pipes, understand what to do and what not to do so you can have a healthy pool and save your money and prevent further headaches. Stay with me to the end and I promise to give you the most valuable information about pool leaks. Firstly, and especially for the new pool owners, I would like to show you a simple way to find out if you have a leak in your pool or not. On average, swimming pools lose about 1/4 of an inch of water each day, yet the rate of water evaporation varies depending upon the sunlight, location, temperature, humidity, and wind. If you notice that the water level is dropping faster than the normal and you have to add water almost every day, you probably have a leak. But how do you test in order to verify the leakage before you start spending money on the leak detection? I am sure that most of the pool owners know about the bucket test. If not, please visit my website and you will find all the information you need how to perform the bucket test. But I would like to show you an easier way to verify whether or not your pool has a leak. First, we have to figure out if you are losing water only if the pump is running or both ways. If your pool is losing water with the pump off, the leak is probably on the body of the pool or around the components of the pool, such as a pool light or other fittings. It can also lose water through the underground pipes if there is a large opening and as long as the leak is below the pool water level. If you are losing water only when the pool is running, then you probably have a pressure leak. That means the water escapes only when the pipes are under pressure or the leak is above the pool water level. As you can see in the video, the leak is exposed after pressure testing the lines with air and water. Before you perform any testing, make sure that there will not be any rain during the test so you can get accurate results. Let's break down the steps to verify the leakage in your pool. First, shut off the pump. Let the water in the pool settle for 5 to 10 minutes. The most common mistake for not taking accurate measurements is the fact that most of the pool owners mark the water level with the filter running. This is because water is constantly moving and you cannot measure the exact level of the water. As a result, you may receive misleading results. After the water is nice and calm, mark the level of the water with a pencil or a tape on the skimmer box or on the body of the pool. Leave the pump off for 24 hours and check to see if the water level dropped or not. If the water dropped, then you definitely have a leak. If the level stayed the same, repeat the same process with the pump running. Check again 24 hours after you shut off the pump. If the water level dropped only with the pump on, you most likely have a pressure leak on your pipelines. When you verify the leak, contact an expert and address the issue as fast as possible. If the water level stays the same, you have nothing to worry about, so get your swimsuit on, make a pina colada and enjoy your pool. Now let's begin with above ground pools. Most of the time, above ground pools require a dive in order to repair a hole or a tear on a vinyl liner. You might be able to observe the water escaping from the pool and washing out the sand underneath the pool. Note that if a large amount of sand has been washed out, the liner in this area probably does not have good support. For that reason, I always recommend filling the empty space with sand or any kind of blue styrofoam if it's possible, and apply 2 large patches for extra support. If you would like to watch my technique on how to apply 2 patches on big holes, check out the video above on how to patch large tears on vinyl liner pools. Also, if you ignore the leak for an extensive period of time, you risk the pool collapsing like this one. The pool collapsed during the repair because it lost an extensive amount of dirt that was supporting the bottom plate. After the first patch, the pressure shifted to the liner and the walls of the pool, and as a result, the legs on the leak area couldn't handle the pressure. If you would like to learn more, please check out the video above. Now let's get back to the liner holes and tears. Most common places for a leak in an above ground pool is the area close to the seam and under or close to the ladder or steps of the pool. Also, many tears on liners are created by the owners at the beginning or end of the pool season by placing or removing the steps or ladder. So be extra careful when you are placing or removing the pool steps or ladder. A big mistake that above ground owners make is not using a mat under the ladder or steps of the pool. It is always better to spend a couple of bucks for a pool mat than repairing the liner. One thing that you should advise your kids and other kids that are using the pool is that the pool pole is not a toy, and poking the liner with 59 times is not a game. Some other important advice I would like to give to above and in-ground liner owners is while you are using the brass vacuum that is attached to the skimmer or a robot vacuum and you feel like it is not moving, turn off the pump or the vacuum and then pull gently. Never put the vacuum with a force while it's stuck on the liner because you are more likely to rip the liner like this example. Also, when you are using a brush to clean the surface of the liner, you have to be extra careful, especially in the seam area. Many times people scratch and tear the wall of the liner while trying to brush the bottom or corner of the liner. This advice can save you from hundreds to thousands of dollars and a lot of headaches. If you ever face an issue with a tear at the fittings or the return jet, then you have to be extra careful with the pads. You will probably need to remove the adapter in order to apply the pads. But in this process you will lose some extra water since we need to open more space and surface area for the pads. Screw back the adapter as gently as possible to avoid dragging the liner. Remove any old tree around the pool area. You definitely don't want to find broken branches penetrating the bottom of your liner. Don't wait until the tree comes to you. You make the first move, protect your family and the pool before it's too late. Lastly, always keep your pool clean and the chemicals in balance. If you let green algae grow into your pool, then you will have to spend more money for chemicals, more energy to keep the filter running, and you are decreasing the life of the liner and the equipment. Now let's see some of the holes and tears on in-ground liner pools. You can come across on really tiny holes that you can barely see or extremely large tears on the liner. Can you spot the tiny holes? Tiny holes are a real challenge. If you find one tiny hole, it is likely you have more than one, and I always recommend scanning the whole surface of the liner at least twice in order to locate and repel all the holes. Like the above ground, the most common place for tears and holes is the seam and steps area. If the hole is large and on the seam, you do not have to fill it with sand as we do with the above ground pools, since in-ground pools have concrete underneath the liner, but I always recommend applying 2 patches for extra support. Also, do not place the ladder without securing the rubber bumpers of the ladder, because the aluminum bars will penetrate the liner when we apply even a little pressure on it. If you notice pieces of rust in your pool, do not ignore them. Always try to find the source of the rust and remove the pieces as carefully as possible, especially if you use the brush. I do not recommend trying to push the rusty pieces towards the main drain, because you are more likely to penetrate the liner. Tears under the steps, and more specifically under the faceplate of the pool steps, can be challenging as well. In order to patch this kind of a leak, you will need to carefully remove the screws from the faceplate, apply the pads and install the screws and the faceplate back to the steps. For more details, please check my video about repairing tears close to the pool steps. If you notice a leak in your pool, call an expert before the damage becomes bigger and more costly. Here are some examples of pools that accumulated a great amount of water underneath the liner after a long period of time. This is what happens when you do not address the leak as soon as you notice it. So, why should you fix the leak as soon as possible? First, cut the loss fast. Don't spend more money filling the pool every day. Water is not cheap. Second, a long pool leak can damage the foundation of your pool, and the issue can become larger than it was. Third and lastly, you will spend more money on chemicals. Since you are losing water, you are losing chemicals at the same time. By adding new water, you have to add more chemicals as well in order to keep them in balance. I hope these 3 reasons are good enough to convince you not to ignore the leaks in your pool. If you found my content valuable so far, please pause the video and subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell so you don't miss my future videos. And I promise you to give you the best tips on how to save your pool from leaks. Now, let's see some structural cracks on concrete and gunite pools. The LT1000 amplifier is one of the best ultrasound devices that can detect even tiny openings on the body of the pool. Not every crack is a leak, but even small cracks on the surface of the pool can cause a leak. To check for leaks, shut off the pump and use your dye to test any visual openings on the surface of the pool. When you dye test, you have to be close to the potential opening, whether it is on concrete or liner, and blow out small portions of dye in order to observe the suction of the leak. If you blow out a large amount of dye, you will not be able to see any suction, since you will not have clear visibility due to the dye. Unless of course the hole is large enough, and in that case it is easier to locate the leak. Also, you cannot just throw dye on the surface of the pool and hope to find a leak, as many of my clients try to do. You have to be close to the potential leak and release small portions of dye in order to observe and locate the leaks. The most common place for leaks in concrete and gunite pools is on the connection between the skimmer bags and the body of the pool. Apply the same technique and dye test carefully around the skimmer boxes, the return jets, and all the components of the pool. Now let's see some leaks on the return lines. For those that do not know what a return line is, it is the line that brings the water back to the pool after passing from the filtration system. The lines that come from the ground and are attached to the filter or heater, if applicable, are the return lines. If you suspect a leak on your return lines, here are some techniques and tips to figure out before you start spending money on repairs. If there is a large opening on the lines, the pool will probably lose water even when the pump is not working. That means that the pool is losing water even if there is no pressure at all. In this case, it is easier to figure out which line is leaking by performing a static pressure. I will explain what a static pressure is in a minute. If the opening is small, like a little crack on the pipes, the pool is more likely losing water only when the pump is running, meaning that the pool is losing water when the pipes are under pressure. In this case, we have to perform pressure tests using water or air to verify a leak, or the combination of both in order to pinpoint the exact location of the leak if a proper ultrasound device is accessible. Let's see what a static pressure is and how to perform a static pressure on return lines. That is the same technique for suction lines as well. Static pressure is the pressure that has been created from the transport of the water from one space to the other. When the water escapes the pipe and moves to the ground, this creates movement even the pump is not working. If we add dye to the water, we can observe the movement and verify the leak. We will not be able to observe the movement if the leak is above or near the pool water level. If there is pressure leak, or if the area of the leak is saturated with water, causing the suction to become so weak and the velocity so small. Now, how do we perform a static pressure? First, we turn off the pump. If the line being checked has multiple inlets or outlets, it may be necessary to either shut them off if they have valves or plug them with a plug. For example, if you have two return outlets in the pool and only one pipeline is connected to the filter or heater, then both returns are connected together to a single line. In this case, we plug one of the returns with a threaded or rubber plug, and we dye test the second one using a proper plug. That means a plug with a hole that will allow us to observe the water movement inside the lines. If the dye moves into the pipe, then you have a leak on the specific line. Note that you know what pipe is leaking and not where the leak is located. Because the returns are connected, it is more likely you will observe the section of the dye, if there is a leakage on the pipes, of course, on the setting return as well. But you can also see in which return the suction was stronger and which one was weaker in order to help you to locate the leak. If no dive movement is observed, plug and dye test the rest of the lines with the same exact process. Just make sure you know which lines are connected before you perform any test so you can get accurate results. Lastly, check the fittings and all the connections around the return jet before you determine where the leak is. At this moment, I would like to pause and ask you, what is your most common place of a leak that you have found so far? Please feel free to give me your feedback in the comment section. Now let's see some leaks on the skimmer lines and skimmer box area. For those that are not familiar with the skimmer lines, they are one of the suction lines that take water from the pool to the filtration system through the pump. You can find the lines on the plumbing system close to the pump. The pipes that are coming from the ground and are attached to the pump are the suction lines. A suction line is the skimmer line, the main drain line, and if applicable, the wall suction line. That means that the pipes are connected to the pump and not only the skimmer lines. The process for static pressure on skimmer lines is exactly the same as the return lines. If your skimmer lines are not connected together or with your main drain, then you can just use your plug with the hole for each skimmer and without worrying to plug any other line. As you dye test the line, check the whole body of the skimmer box for any cracks or openings. Sometimes it is hard to see it, but if you dye test it properly and check the whole surface of the box, you will be able to find the leak and repair it, even temporarily. Lastly, keep the entrance of the skimmer box clean and empty the skimmer basket often so debris doesn't block the flow. Main drains and hydrostatic valves. Main drain is another suction line for the pool. Usually they are on the bottom of the deep end, but we can find them on the shallow and well side of the pool in rare cases. Again, the process for static pressure is the same, with the only difference of having to dive in order to dye test it. Don't forget, turn off the pump before you perform any test, and more importantly, before you remove the main drain cover. Remember, safety first. But the main drain line is not the only place you can spot a leak. The main drain boxes are another component that leaks like to hide in. Check the whole surface of the box for cracks and dye test any suspicious areas. If you are dealing with liner pools and the liner has wrinkles around the drain cover, dye test on the area around the drain ring for potential openings. Note that the openings can be really narrow. That's why you have to take your time and throw small amounts of dye in order to observe any loose suction. Another component you may find on the main drain is a hydrostatic valve. The hydrostatic valve prevents any pressure from the groundwater towards the body of the pool and liner if applicable. Sometimes debris can be stuck on the entrance and create a leak on the pool. Dye test the entrance and the threads on the valve for any potential openings. If you had a leak in your pipelines or you have faced many leakages on the lines before, please let me know which line have you found that is more likely to leak, the suction or the return line. Please also consider adding the state that you are in so we can get more data about the leaks. Now let's take a look at some leaks on the pool light. The most common place for a leak on the pool light is the light conduit. In this case, you can verify the leak by dye testing the entrance of the conduit. If you find an old epoxy blocking the entrance, still dye test and add the epoxy and any potential opening. You can repel a leak on the light conduit by applying 2-part epoxy glue or my preferable sealer for the job, butyl tape. For repairing leaks on light conduit, check out my detailed video that you will find above the screen. Another common place for a leak is the light niche. Usually there is an opening on the body of the niche, and most of the time it's just a little crack that allows the water to escape the pool. an ultrasound device can detect even a tiny opening with high velocity. If an ultrasound is not available, you can verify the leak by dye testing all the potential openings on the body of the light niche. In such rare cases, you may observe the suction of a leak but not the opening. For example, on liner pulls you may find that a leak is behind a screw of the light ring. In this case, there is a hole or a tear behind the ring that makes a leak detection a real challenge. If you are dealing with a concrete pool, check all the connections around the light niche and the body of the pool. Again, take your time and throw small amounts of dye in order to spot a tiny openings. Since we have covered all the components of the pool, let me show you some of the leaks that I have found after pressure testing at the ground lines. A pressure test will verify a leak on lines, but sometimes can reveal the position of the leak as well. In some cases, you may be able to hear the leak at the ground, but may not be able to see it. But that's fine, as long as you can pinpoint the location of the leak, the client would be really satisfied. I will introduce you to the noise of an underground leak after a pressure test. The combination of water and air pressure and the usage of an ultrasound system can bring great results. This process is not easy and you need to have the right equipment. If you do not have the knowledge or the equipment, just call an expert in your area and your life will be much easier. But if you are in the area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut or Pennsylvania, call Pool Leak Detection LLC and we will take care of your pool leak issue. Lastly, I would like to show you some potential leaks on the plumbing system as well. One source of a leak is your pump gasket, but how do you test and verify that you have to replace it? One way to check if you need a new gasket is to turn the pump on and off and observe the water escapes from the cover of the pump. Note that the pump has to be primed, meaning that the pump is full of water. You will not be able to observe any leakage through the gasket if the pump has not enough water in it. Wait until it primes and then turn off the pump. If water is splashing out of the pump, then it's time to replace the gasket. Another source of a leak is the fittings of the connections. Turn on the pump and let it run for a couple of minutes. Check and observe any water leakage around the pool equipment. Make sure nothing is dripping, and if it does, address the issue as soon as possible. Always keep the equipment area clear and make sure it is always dry. If the area is wet, you will probably have openings on the equipment. Lastly, I would like to ask you what kind of pool you have and what is your biggest struggle that you are facing with your pool. Let me know if I can be helpful. I hope this video was really informative for you, and I will do my best to share more valuable information about pool leak detection. My name is Chris Elias and I'm certified in pool inspection and leak detection. I'm also a commercial diver, a free diver, and I'm an immigrant from Greece. I have a passion for diving and working underwater, so I don't mind if I'm diving in pitch black or in a freezing cold environment. I'm always happy to help my clients and find solutions to their pool issues. I'm always happy to learn more and expand my knowledge. I'm always happy to face more challenging jobs. As for my work quality and reputation, I will let my customers' feedback speak on my behalf. If you would like to support my work, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you find my content valuable, please consider liking it and sharing it. Also, please feel free to leave me your questions or thoughts in the comment section. I'm always happy to read your feedback and answer your questions. This encourages me to create more content and helps me to grow my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and take care.